Before we start, I'm a burnout denier. I thought for my whole life up until very recently that burnout is made up, or we're just being overly dramatic or weak-minded. We're not actively fighting in wars, For most people, like, we have this kind of, in a first world country, we have this day-to-day structure and routine. We're no famine, like, overall we're doing okay, right? Even though the economy sucks right now for a lot of people, but all in all, we have it pretty good, especially compared to 50, 100 years ago, I think. And my brain keeps getting stuck in the idea that because we have it better than our predecessors, which is true in many ways, our overall quality of life is better, but the world is drastically different than even 20 years ago. We have this exponential growth in tech that's really impacted almost every aspect of living and being. The pure amount of information that we're inundated with 24/7 is beyond the scope of what people 50 years ago could have comprehended. So our brains are working overtime all the time. And it really hit me that burnout is relative. We're working in a world that's big and complex and interconnected in a lot of different ways that we didn't understand or could grasp 50 years ago. So depending on who you are, your capacity, like your natural capacity, your mental health, your history, your environment, the way you were raised, what kind of values and ideals that you were raised with, culture, personal experience, luck. Everyone is going to have a different threshold for burnout and a different level of severity of burnout. This is like kind of the side series to the normal fun cookie decorating baking content. I always told people that baking and decorating was a vehicle for the things that I really loved, and what I really love is the human condition and small business, what makes us tick, what makes us feel fulfilled as human beings, separate from making money. I wanted to start making these videos because these are thoughts that plague me or are a part in my head constantly. And I'm like, I want to share this because this will allow me to connect with other people who maybe feel the same, or maybe are struggling and are looking to get something from this. And the more we share, the more we can be more human together. For those of you who don't know me, hello, my name is Lisa, and I own Borderlands Bakery, which is a baking supply company where we focus on cookie decorating tools, but I also teach classes. And I also own a company called My Custom Bakes, which is a software company that is a cottage bakery tool for cottage bakers to manage their orders and have a little website that looks really professional and make it easy to sell their baked goods. If you guys want to check us out, you can find us at borderlandsbakery.com and mycustombakes.com. Before doing these businesses, I've had several other small businesses, and I also got my degree in biomedical engineering and had a 10-year-long career in biotech before quitting and focusing solely on Borderlands Bakery and My Custom Bakes. Again, this world is complex. We live online so much that sometimes, even though we're surrounded in the digital world, it can still feel really lonely in the physical world and kind of lonely in our own heads. I'm hoping that if I can actively share my experiences and it helps somebody out, or like there's a light bulb moment for someone, I think that'd be a really cool way to leave a positive impact on the world. Making these videos is also kind of therapeutic in a way because it allows me to reflect, think over the things that I've done and experienced so far, share some of my learnings, and be able to connect with other people. Not everybody has access to people in their lives that they can be this vulnerable with. And the internet is a beautiful tool. You know, you put yourself out there, you are opening yourself up to being completely shitted on, and also you may connect with people that you never thought you could connect with. And the internet is so beautiful because it's allowed me to meet a lot of people that are now friends in real life. I'm also, right now, it is July 2024, I am actively still working my way out of burnout. I feel like I became a different person after experiencing burnout and completely denying burnout and thinking that I am impervious. This cannot affect me because I'm mentally tough. What mental health, right? All those things are a result of the way that I was raised and my experiences and my level of awareness about a lot of different things. And as I got older and as things started to kind of unravel is when I had to pause and take a look at my entire life and assess what the heck was going on. A little backstory is always important because everybody's situation is different. So to set the stage, I'm an immigrant. I came to the US when I was 6 years old from Shanghai, China. My dad actually came to the US first when I was 10 months old. My mom joined him a couple years later, and then I came a couple years after that. I was in the care of my extended family, so my grandparents and my aunts and uncles, and I was kind of shuffled around a little bit. And when you look back on that very important development time of a kid's life, they're really impressionable and you learn to adapt even if you're a kid. So different parts of my family had different values, different environments. I feel like somewhere in there I picked up a lot of different things, but what I really did pick up was adapting and doing whatever I needed to do so that I could operate and move through life in a non-confrontational way. Being praised for being mature when you're 5 or 6 felt like a really good thing at the time. But when I look back on it, maturity at that age is a result of other things. You're not necessarily being mature, but you are coming off as mature because you realize that's the thing or the behavior that'll get you what you want. And that was not a conscious understanding until very recently. When I moved to the US, the number one goal was to learn the language and kind of assimilate into the culture. So we started our lives off in San Francisco. We used to live in an in-law unit in somebody's garage, and my parents would take turns taking me to school in the morning, and we transferred schools a couple of times. But in that process, I stumbled across AOL CDs. Remember, we had to have CDs to install AOL on your machine, and that would allow you to use a phone line so that you can get dial-up internet. So completely accidentally stumbled into all of that online world, and also by complete accident. I was really into K-pop at the time, so I looked for K-pop websites or whatever, and I really wanted posters and merch and bookmarks, and that just was not easily available online at the time or physically. So I made my own, and I stumbled across Soompi online forums, which I think still exists today, and I noticed people were selling a lot of things on there. So I asked my dad to get me a laminator, and my first side hustle was born. I was selling counterfeit K-pop bookmarks and little photos that were laminated online, and I was getting cash in the mail, and I got a taste of that. I started saving some money, and that little taste of freedom at a tiny scale encouraged me to pursue other side gigs throughout my teens that allowed me to make enough money to buy all these little things that I wanted. It felt unreasonable to even ask because they had worked so hard and sacrificed so much to be here in the first place. So as long as I kept my grades up, did my extracurriculars, and fulfilled all my basic duties as the kid that I was free to do whatever I want in my spare time. Instead of hanging out with a lot of friends and doing all this stuff and playing, having hobbies, experimenting, I devoted myself to these little side hustles and crafts and things that I learned and picked up to generate income. Mindset and discipline were very important in my household growing up. My dad was my primary caretaker in the educational sense. Both him and my mom made sure that I really understood and valued discipline and having a tough mind. I saw my dad go through situations as an immigrant that I couldn't process as a kid, but I remember as an adult. You know, you have that glass ceiling. No matter how much you do or how good your performance is at work, there are people that are going to be able to do better than you with less effort, purely because of who they are and their situation, and that's just a fact of life. And I watched my dad kind of navigate through that in his career without a full understanding of what it meant. But the message that I received was, you just have to work as hard as possible, and sacrifices are really necessary in order to get the things that you want, in order to create the lifestyle that you want. Because we prioritized a strong mindset, that meant muscling through any uncomfortable situations, not necessarily addressing them, because first of all, you're a kid, you have no awareness of a lot of these things. You're just stumbling along and following along with whatever the adults are doing around you. No complaining, so you just do the thing without complaining, because if you finish the thing, you can move on to the next thing and people won't give you a hard time. There's also a power dynamic between parents and kids, right? That is really, really natural, and that also contributed to the not speaking up or talking back kind of approach. If we grow up and we don't become aware of all these little things, we continue to operate on that baseline autopilot, way of being, and we never confront the things that might be limiting beliefs, or maybe they're not serving us anymore because we're not kids anymore. We inadvertently continue to spread this way of being either to our kids, generational trauma as we know it to be now, or generational trauma can also show up as the way that we show up in our relationships with our non-family members, so our friends and our co-workers. If we do not become aware of the way that we're programmed and why we're like that, and questioning if that still is the thing we want to be, we pass it on to the people around us. Having this tough and sort of hardened way, or rigid, I would even call it rigid, mindset. There's only this way. This way is the right way because you're tough and you're disciplined and you can just muscle through all these situations without considering all these human aspects. Having this hardened way of life and way of approaching situations didn't leave a lot of room for me to feel and to kind of be human. I can see how I was really robotic in a lot of situations instead of human. And that's really sad, but I know better now, so I can be different. Again, I am still working my way out of burnout, and all that was important because it matters what your history is to understand where you are now. I'm not operating today anywhere close to my highest productivity level that I was very proud of in my 20s. I'm 35 now. But in my 20s, I get up at 5:30 or 6. I just wake up. I don't need an alarm. I go out, walk the dog, make lunch or whatever. Go to work. I'd be in at 7:30. Sometimes if I have a call, I'd be on even earlier. Get home around 5:30. Dog out, work out, do dinner stuff, maybe hang out as my husband watches a show or whatever. And I did not spend a lot of time with my ex-husband at the time, which sucks because you need to spend time and prioritize relationships, and that just wasn't a thing. I would work on my side hustle until 2 or 3 a.m. almost every single day for years. And this was before I even really monetized anything, and I wasn't making that much money. I was just obsessed, hyper focused. I led a really successful life in the sense of, on paper, it looked really good. I kept up a decent social calendar and I was active in the community. I helped a lot of other small businesses. At the time, I didn't have a concept of how much I was juggling. I had no idea. I was like, oh man, plenty of people do this. People do this all the time. Anyone who did anything that was worthwhile in this world juggled 80,000 things at the same time. If they can do it, I can do it too, and I shouldn't complain. I should be grateful for it. I was really, really pushing myself to do as much as possible, to give as much as possible, because I thought if I am in a situation where I can, I should. The more resources I collected or I accrued or I earned, the more I would give away. People jokingly called me the Energizer Bunny, and I thought it was kind of funny because I really did not think I was any kind of hot shit back then. But when I look back on it and I kind of zoom out, I'm like, wow, I actually did do a lot, and no wonder I'm freaking tired now. Realistically, I have no idea how that lifestyle was sustainable. Did it for 10 years. Why can't I do it some more? And again, my brain was completely stuck in the idea that you have it so good, you should be helping other people as much as you possibly can, even if it comes at a cost to yourself or your partner. You should just do it. And that concept was something that my partner at the time had shared. So our goal in life at the time was to be as little of a burden as to anybody around us as possible. In fact, because, dual income, no kids, good lifestyle, we should be helping other people as much as we can and be as generous as possible. But it did come at an expense, is what I'm trying to say, and I didn't see it until things started breaking down. About 6 years ago, I started feeling like, oh man, something's not quite right in my body. So I had like a lot of tightness in my back. My hips were always carrying discomfort from the way I sit or my fidgeting or whatever. I could never sit still, ever sit still. This has been around for a long time. I could never sit still. So I'm either hyperactive in my brain or just doing something or something. I can't sit through movies because I have to get up, walk around, do something, get something to eat, drink, touch, rub. I don't know, that's just the way I'm wired. I also can't turn my brain off, so I'm constantly thinking about stuff like peace. What does that feel like in your head? Sleep was not the most restorative, but I was young. I didn't need as much, and I was like, this is fine. I could do it. I'll muscle through anything. My humanity started creeping in. I was working at a startup, and we went out to dinner. We were in Boston. And it was a retirement goodbye dinner for one of the very senior people in the company. There was an interaction between him and one of my old bosses. And it was such a beautiful human interaction where you can see they really experienced a lot of things together. They had a great connection, and it was just really, really beautiful. And it touched me so much that I was crying at the dinner table at a work function. And I felt so embarrassed and ashamed because I didn't know where it was coming from. But also it was like I was starting to feel things in here, and I was really confused. The only things that I felt in here was discomfort and tightness and clenching. And I thought all those things were just really normal things as we navigated through life. One of the other physical symptoms was I was a nail biter forever. In any situation where I was comfortable, excited, uncomfortable, triggered, stressed, literally anything, I would chew on my nails. So I had really, really brittle nails for my whole life until very, very recently. I've been able to grow them out now. They're nice and thick and healthy, which is a really new thing for me. In addition to that experience at work, a couple years later had also been working for Philips. It was really a nice, cushy, stable job, paid well, had great benefits, but it wasn't stimulating for my brain. It was so unstimulating, and I needed to do more work so bad. There's so much waste sometimes in these large corporate structures, and no wonder there are layoffs everywhere because there's not really a ton of work in some cases, and I just happened to land in one of those jobs. So I had a little bit of a breakdown in my boss's office. I was like, I need to do more. I feel like I can't get any progress. I'm always waiting on these things. What else? And he's like, oh, just wait, a couple months, you'll get more. And I'm like, I can't stand it anymore. I need more. more stimulation, something. Because I was starting to online shop at that point. I had never online shopped. That was like a stress response out of boredom or lack of stimulation. He had no idea what to do with me because I was like crying. I've never done this. I've never emotionally like broken down in a work environment like that. All he could do was just put some Kleenex in front of me and try to comfort me, but I kind of feel bad for him because I was probably super awkward. Things started unraveling for me at a much faster rate during COVID because of kind of like our forced isolation in a sense. It gave us more time to think. I couldn't be go, go, go constantly, physically, all the time anymore. As I watched the video over, I realized that I skipped over the part where I talk about how I can intellectualize a lot of these concepts and I understand what's going on physiologically and neurologically, but I could not connect the logical understanding of it or the intellectualization of it to actually feeling it and believing it with my physical body. And that was a big hump to get over that I'm still actively trying to practice and create those connections every day because our bodies tell us so much. We just learn to not listen. And that really sucks because we don't live in an environment that encourages us to listen. I was still married at the time. I had been with my partner since I was 19, so we've been together a while. 2020 was an incredible year for my business. Because everybody was staying at home, we actually already had plans to make digital courses, but we expedited those plans and we were the first to go to market with kind of a comprehensive cookie decorating course that talked about the entire process. So we launched that, did really well, did some other courses that did really well. If you guys want to check them out, they're still up over at bakingwithborderlands.com. Here's to hoping to adding more courses, but we'll see. It felt really good. Like financially, I was like, oh my God, we're winning. Quitting and focusing on my own businesses felt like the right thing because I was getting validated by the reaction to these launches. I mentioned that I think I hit a wall during COVID because we had more time to kind of internalize and think. As I was sitting down to outline this video, I was reflecting on that time period. And I think because I had ticked off so many boxes in my 20s, you know, car, house, dog, marriage, stable income, having a retirement fund, you know, this was a big deal. To be able to do all those things before I hit 30 felt really good. I had a midlife crisis, I think. Keep in mind that in an average first world country, the life expectancy is like 78. So having your midlife crisis between like in your 30s and 40s is pretty normal. It's not in your 50s. I realized that I had invested all my time and energies into my business and other people, and who the hell am I without those things? It was a big identity crisis. What did I want out of my relationships, both friends and romantically? And what did I want to do for myself in this one life that I have? I didn't have anything I was doing that was really purely just for fun and to feed my soul that did not have a connection with the things I did for work, because I thought having hobbies like that was a waste of time. I don't know at what point in my life that narrative stuck. I'm still trying to figure that out. All that to say that at this point, you know, 2024, we're on our 4th year post-COVID. The world is very different. Technological advances, incredible. AI, a whole new world. I'm still trying to figure out what my new balanced life looks like. I still don't have any new hobbies. Like, the reason why I work out and whatever is because it's for health. It's not really because I freaking love going to lift, and you know, I admire people who love doing that, but it does kind of feel like work for me. There's a lot of things that I do that people do, or people do in this society and life, that feels like work to me. Like, it's a lot of effort to do all these things and manage all your life things, make enough money, pay taxes, do things you want to go eat, hang out with your friends, experience new things, dog stuff, relationships, friends. Like, there's so much to do. It kind of feels paralyzing. Maybe it's just too many options. Maybe that's one of the problems, right? Too complex, too many options, paralysis. Today, I went through a period where I was really paralyzed. After my ex and I broke up, I went through almost close to a year of wondering what part I played in all of this and trying to figure out how I got here so that I don't make the same mistake twice. This is a lot of damage for all parties involved when it comes to things like divorce. Like, thankfully no children, right? So they're not impacted in this, but it affects everyone, your friends and your families. And it causes some discomfort in your friends group because it causes other people to look at themselves and then to create stories about whatever, or fill in the blanks about whatever that I've done or have not done, or whatever other people have or have not done. And yeah, it is not a fun thing to navigate. Experiencing that and being so disappointed in myself that I physically could not get myself to do even like 50% of the things that I used to be able to do is really disappointing. It's not the want, like, yeah, I want to do these things, but you can't get yourself to do it, and you end up sitting around or ruminating or stuck in your own head, and it's not so easy for somebody to tell you to snap out of it and you just snap out of it. It doesn't work that way. You have to find your way to that yourself. I've muscled through so many situations in the past that it did not make sense to any logical part of me why it was so hard for me to get over this burnout / disappointment hump. If the people around me notice, of course, because I was not operating at my high level, and I think that leads to some disappointment for people because they expected more, because I set that precedent. I started to kind of self-isolate because I needed to figure my own shit out and not have anybody else put narratives into my brain. So burnout for me feels like you want to do stuff, but it's really hard to do stuff. It takes all your energy to do stuff, and it doesn't matter what stuff it is. It could be taking out the garbage, brushing your teeth, making the call to set up an appointment for the dog, cleaning, doing work, being consistent about all the little things that you have to do to manage a small business, because as a small business owner, you wear like 80,000 hats. How do you navigate that? And the mental health aspect of it. And there's guilt, and there's shame, and there's confusion and not understanding, and then there's judgment. All different kinds of judgment. It might not even be bad judgment, but just judgment like itself is like, oh my God, this is debilitating sometimes. And I could feel it in my body. It's a combination of stomach churning, chest tightening, shoulder hunching, tightness in my neck. Sometimes I get like, I just have to like rub my temples because I'm like frustrated or confused or stuck. And I always have to still fidget when I'm doing things. And the brain is very, very loud. It is a kind of a challenge to navigate the normal day-to-day because you're like, man, I know based on logic and by other people's life experiences that this phase will pass as long as I put in the effort to address these things and know myself and be intentional, but it still feels very hard. So here are the things that I am actively trying to see if it'll reignite the spark and my zest for life, or it will help me find a new balance because that old way of being is gone. And I think there's a grieving process that's associated with leaving that old version of you, because that's the version of you everyone has known and has grown to like and admire and depend on and look toward, that version of me is out. And it really sucks because that was a cool person, or so I thought, but it came at my own detriment, right? Like, I couldn't run that fast anymore. I wasn't running at a pace that was sustainable for long-term life. I'm still going to be alive for, 35, 40 years. The heck am I going to do? And how am I going to make a living in a way that won't run me into the ground? A lot of people have recommended meditation and yoga and clearing the mind, and I've been practicing meditation, and it's so difficult for my brain to just calm the heck down and shut up, because it is constantly thinking about something or all the things, and it's exhausting. Like, just telling it to calm is such a difficult thing. I've never been a procrastinator before, like, ever. I just go. I had that momentum, I kept going, and I started procrastinating this last year, and I hate it. I'm actually much better now than a year ago, where I was like, just everything was dragging. Now I can actually get myself to do things. It took time. So the meditation thing was not great for me. Moving my body is really helpful for me. After moving to Florida, if you guys missed it, I actually moved from California to Florida very recently. There's a video on that. Check it out on the channel. I talk about why and how it's going so far. But I think moving my body is crucial. I now go for a walk every morning with the dog. It's about 45 minutes. It is at a leisurely pace. I am not trying to turn it also into exercise. Yes, that is a benefit. Walking is great, but I'm not speed walking or anything. It's about letting the dog do what she wants, sniff, and it's very hot here in the middle of the day, so we got to get that walk done in the morning. But it also prevents me from doom scrolling. I get a chance to be out in nature. I live in an area where there's a lot of greenery and there's a lot of ponds and water, so it feels good to my brain to go out and do that. It is now a non-negotiable, I feel, now that I've been doing it for a month almost straight. It is the only time in the day where people are not asking something of me. I don't have to answer emails or listen to a podcast to better myself. I'm not reading. I'm just being, and it feels good. The other thing I'm actively working on is reduced working hours. This one's really hard because the economy is not great right now. The cookie decorating scene has changed a lot, and our revenue is not that high. But I think there is more to life, and because I was able to save some money, I am cool for now, okay for now. And I want to be able to get myself to a point where I can actively start taking days off without feeling guilt or obligation. It's a sense to myself. There is fear around that where I'm like, oh my God, if I don't post today, I'm gonna lose followers, which has been happening anyway because social media sucks and I am tired of it. I just have to find a way to balance that and do things in a more sustainable way, and to find the joy again in all the things where I'm creating. I spend a lot of time in the kitchen experimenting, and even recently, in the last couple of years, even experimentation felt like so much work and such a big lift. It used to not. It used to be really fun. So I really have to find the joy in those things again. And part of being in Florida is now I get to teach at the Florida Academy of Baking, and I get to teach not just cookie decorating. I can share my ethnic foods. I can share all my savory things that I cook and that I love, and I think that would be a great way to help me find joy in creating with food again. I also desperately need to find a hobby, but the problem is now I'm it's a task in my mind with a checkbox next to it, find a hobby, and now it's become work, and now I'm resisting it. I'm also trying to carve out more intentional time for relationships and things like that, because I live farther away from my friends back at home, that's easier now. You know, you can schedule time to like catch up and things like that. I like that. Furthermore, with the whole what I'm doing to get out of burnout thing is I have to establish my boundaries for the first time, which has been really uncomfortable and super scary. What are my boundaries around relationships and work and what I do for myself versus for other people? And again, sometimes I'm paralyzed just thinking about that, because I come from a if I could, I should mentality. And the only person who really suffers from that is me and the people that I directly am around every single day. So that is a big shift that I'm working through. This was a long video, way longer again than I had planned or expected, and we touched on a lot of different things, but most importantly, we highlighted the complexity of the situation and how there's not a one-size-fits-all situation here for burnout and getting out of burnout. I will make an update to this video in a couple of months, because I believe that I am getting out of it and that I'm finding a new normal and a new balance for myself. It just takes time, and I don't know what it looks like, and I'm also trying to stay open to what that might look like, because I am tired of like defining what things are supposed to look like and then doing it because I think I'm supposed to do it. I want to do it because I want to do it. I want to take a little bit of pressure off of myself, because there aren't a lot of people pressuring me outside of this. You know, there's still the parental like pressure. You don't want to let your parents down. You want to make sure all their sacrifices moving across the world was worth it. Yeah, that matters. But we're at a point now where like I am allowed, I think I have to give myself permission to take my pedal off of the accelerator just a little bit. So thank you for watching. There's going to be a lot more self-development and small business videos coming up, because this is an area that I'm really passionate about and I wish I could share more about, and that we can connect about it, because the world is changing. The corporate structure in America is changing. Our socio-economic, political climate is changing. We have to look at alternative ways of being. We deserve, as human beings, to live more human lives, I think. So, yeah, thank you. See you in the next video.